We're excited to have you all join us. And I see that we have some international folks as well. So we're going to spend this morning talking about the Center for Homeland Defense and Security here at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. And we are located 2 hours south of San Francisco in what we call the Central Coast. Monterey is a pretty small town, but we have big ideas here. And today we want to talk about the center's programs and resources. So we have some in-person hybrid programs, and we have some resources that we're going to talk about that you can access at any time if you are in Homeland Security and relevant private sector. So let's start with the beginning. The Center for Homeland Defense and Security started in 2002 with a mission and a vision to provide graduate education for the nation's Homeland Security folks. And we have a very broad definition of what that means. That includes local, state, tribal, territorial, and federal DHS government officials. We are funded by FEMA, the National Preparedness Directorate, to create a cadre of leaders who can think more critically about this very dynamic environment in which we live and protect. So that the nation's first responders, and we're talking everybody from all the federal agencies to utilities to transportation, law enforcement, fire, public health, a very broad definition, to help them come together in our classrooms here in Monterey to develop strategy and policy for Homeland Security. Indeed, to provide this cutting edge research so that as the threats evolve, so do we. And this classroom is like the petri dish of Homeland Security. And we bring as many people as we can together from different agencies, and we deal with over 2,000 to date to create strategies and policies to protect the nation. So this morning, I'd like to introduce you to our folks that will be joining us. First, Lauren Fernandez, who's lead faculty for our master's program. And then we have Lauren Laeli, who is a detective with the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness. And we have Erica May, who is the Emergency Communications Supervisor for the Memphis Police Department in Tennessee. Welcome, panel, and Lauren Fernandez. We are excited to have you aboard as well to talk about your experiences in the classroom and kind of help our audience understand what it means to be part of the CHDS family and education. So with that, we're going to start with the master's program. Lauren, can you tell us what it's all about?
Sure. It's a 15-month program, and there's 6 quarters that occur during those 15 months, where it's kind of like a school cookie or sandwich, right? Where you start in the classroom, and then it's hybrid. You're online, but back in the real world, and then you end your classes at the end of the quarter and start your new ones. What's fantastic about this program is that people aren't taking a break to come out and do this. The people in this program are working full-time in their professions in Homeland Security, and they're type A people, right? You want to get something done, you give it to a busy person. But what that creates is an environment in the classroom where we've got people from, like you said, Heather, the petri dish, right? So lots of diverse disciplines that are coming in, and I think more diverse today than they ever have been. In addition to, fire, law enforcement, public health, we're seeing public works. There's an interview that we can link to by Jackie McLeod, who just joined. She's in her first quarter now. She's actually down the hall from Heather. And she's coming from public works, and what is she getting from a Homeland Security education? In the classroom, we have a lot of great conversations about cutting edge issues. This is when I was talking with the other Lauren on this call about what would be good to mention. She said, talk about kind of the style of teaching. So if we think back to our grade school days, it's pedagogy, where you have a teacher in front of the room and saying, this is what we want you to learn. There'll be a quiz on Friday. Here you go. In our classroom, it's more of andragogy. We're dealing with adults who have significant experience in lots of different areas. And our job is, as instructors, is really to facilitate that, to draw that experience out, to have those hard conversations, and to learn and broaden our understanding of lots of different issues. To give you an example, I teach in the intro class, which is right at the beginning. And the topics that people have written about on their intro papers at the end of the quarter have been how artificial intelligence has and can be used in money laundering, or to detect money laundering. I guess it works both ways, but we're on the detection end of it. The potential for epidemiological models for mass shootings, ideas to boost tribal emergency management, using virtual reality to develop empathy in law enforcement, anticipating threats to urban air mobility. So think of, the drones now that are going to be used for not only shipping material from point to point, but also people. How do we anticipate that and work that into the regulatory structure? How local law enforcement could address cybercrime, and examining the impact of resilience metrics and grants that are going towards critical infrastructure. Are resilience metrics taking away from the hardening of these critical infrastructure, or adding to it in some way? So it's really diverse topics that people are diving into. And it's not only your experience that you're bringing to the classroom, but the joy of going to a program like this is now you're being introduced to all the people that have studied similar things coming before you, those academic models. So in a class called Unconventional Threats, you'll learn about social identity theory, so that you can not only understand, I think, ourselves more, but the groups that we're interacting with. In strategy and innovation, they introduced something called the Lean Launchpad. So how can you take your ideas and use rapid prototyping to go out and test and implement those things? In media, you're going to be learning about theories of practice of media and communications, audience theory, cultivation theory. How do you counter information operations? So not just what your experience has been or the experience of the person sitting next to you, but really being able to be aware of and build upon these models that are out there. I can go on, and I'm sure I will in answering questions. But I guess the other thing I want to mention too, in addition to the courses that you go through, there's two other really key points, I think, that you get out of the education. One is a fantastic network. And that's the network, not only of the people that you're sitting next to in class that you're going to be calling on, as even after the program ends, as incidents occur, as you need information, but you're now tapped into the entire alumni network of people who have come before you. You can cold call them up and tell them you're in this program, or you were in this program, and you've kind of got a door opening, and people are ready to exchange ideas with you. The other thing that I think you get, or actually I think you give, is a contribution of a thesis. So you've got the time and space now to really focus in on something you're really interested in, you really care about. Sometimes that's something that's really directly applicable to your job. Or sometimes I think some great theses are at the intersection, right? They're not what you're doing day to day, but they're enabling you to step back and take a look at a problem or an issue that people don't have time to do, but is very important. And I can give you a whole list of really interesting theses that have contributed, I think, to the field. But we're here to support you. It's a lot of work, but I don't know of another program that supports its participants, I think, as well as CHDS. We've got writing coaches. We've got a fantastic award-winning librarian. We have thesis advisors that really want to see everyone succeed. So it's my favorite place to work.
And we've been here a long time, so obviously it's the greatest job in the world. The master's degree comes from the Naval Postgraduate School, so it is conferred, and the title of the degree is a Master of Arts in Security Studies, Homeland Defense and Security. And the program is difficult. We won't try to soft shoe it here. While there is a ton of support, there is a lot of work, and we want to make sure that people understand that this program, you're taking 2 courses at a time for 2 quarters at a time. And we'll just share the screen of the website here. You can come here and look at all the information that we have. But the master's program, you can see the application here, as well as the guidelines. So if you are in DHS, you have an internal process. If you're with NYPD, you have an internal process. Some of our agencies that work with us do have internal processes. And please do feel free to ask questions in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those as we go along. You can see all the details of the programs as we go through them. And this program is a hybrid program. So you're taking those 2 courses at a time for 2 weeks at a time. Here, you're in residence. You can see where you are in residence and will be out of pocket. And in order to qualify for the program, you'll need an undergraduate degree of 3.0. And if you were like a lot of our folks who weren't really paying attention at the time when they were in undergrad, if you don't have that 3.0, you just take the Miller's Analogy Test or the GRE. The other qualification is that you are in a significant Homeland Security position in government. We are not allowed to take private sector, unfortunately, for the master's program, but for the other 2 programs we're going to talk about, we do allow for the private sector. So if you are a local, state, federal DHS, Title 32 National Guard, or Navy, the program is sponsored. So you'll be able to tuition, travel, lodging, books, everything's covered. And that's really important for those who want to get a master's degree sponsored. So here we go. You see that we have 2 cohorts every year. One is more of a Potomac, Maryland location. And Lauren, can you talk about that, the different locations and kind of how it's set up currently?
Sure. So the Naval Postgraduate School as a university itself is out in Monterey, California. And both cohorts will take classes there. One of our cohort, though, is a mix of, I think there's 3 sessions that you would have out in California and 4 sessions that you would have in Monterey, California. And we're working to take kind of more advantage of that Potomac location. For example, one of the recent cohorts, I mentioned the strategy and innovation class where they were using like a rapid prototyping technique called the lean, let's see, I want to get it straight, Lean Launchpad. And they were able to go and take a trip to the Pentagon to brief out their projects there. And often there's some guest speakers that we could take advantage of as well in that area. So the Potomac campus is on, help me out here, Heather, it's an old postal executive facility.
Yes.
It's its own campus. It's got very large classrooms. It's got a nutrition bar. It's really outfitted well, and you're very comfortable when you're there too.
Working hard, of course.
Of course.
And
the Bolger Center. Thank you.
The Bolger Center is quite relaxed environment, and everybody works together as a cohort on both campuses. Monterey campus, you're staying on our military base at the Naval Postgraduate School. And we have a wonderful old hotel that's been renovated. That's quite comfortable. It's a little more spread out than the Bolger Center. You can't go wrong with either location for sure. So there you go. When you're looking at the program, I do invite you to walk through these criteria and eligibility. I see that we do have some international students. We do have a process for that. And if you're interested, I'm sure Christian can put my email down and we can talk about that specifically. But the DHS folks, if you want to look up your component, you can see the components are here. And you can start, everybody can start their application here. We don't look at it until you finalize it. So you can start it at any time. And we'll just go through that real quick. The application is meant to help you understand where you are in the Homeland Security space. And we leave it for you, the applicant, to make the case for the criticality of your position to Homeland Security. And in that, we have 5 essays, each one very specific about what they're looking for. And a lot of it is, we know that you guys are tactically, operationally very good at what you do. We expect that. What we don't know is how you think about problems. So as you read through each of the essays, I always advise our folks to make an outline of what is required in the essay, and then think about your position, where you are, and what you want to be, and how you want to interact with these other leaders in the classroom, these other people who are very passionate about what they do. How are you going to be a change agent? How do you identify problems? How do you evaluate them? And then how do you synthesize information and become that change agent? That's the basics of the 5 essays. We require 3 letters of recommendation. The most important comes from the boss saying, I will give him or her the time to do the program successfully. This is what they do in the agency, and this is their career track. That's a perfect letter from the boss. If you're writing it, make sure you have those things in there. And then the other two come from a peer, somebody who knows you well, who can talk about your strategy and policy influence, and then a public safety official of any kind. So those three letters we leave very broad so that you can, we know that Homeland Security itself is very broad. So we leave that for you to decide who you want to represent you. And I can tell you that a lot of folks try to get very senior people to write these letters, but we would prefer it if you know somebody senior and they really know you and your position and your work, get those folks, that's fine. But we want people who know how you influence your area of responsibility. Do you have local, state, regional, national influence? Those are the kinds of letters that garner the biggest, best score. So if you have questions, again, I'll just remind you to put those in the chat and we'll answer them as we can. But Lauren, we have a master's student currently in the program, Lauren Layelli. Lauren, can you tell us a little bit about your experience, why you applied, what difference did it make, and how are you implementing what you've learned so far?
Sure. So I first heard of CHDS when my agency was doing some sort of internal process for the emergence program. And I put in internally to, be accepted to the emergence. And unfortunately, or fortunately, my agency didn't see the brilliance in my plan. And I wasn't selected, but I kept getting the emails from CHDS. And I was sitting at my office, I guess almost 2 years ago, and saw that they were accepting, applicants for the master's program coming up. And I already have a master's degree. So it wasn't something I was like actively, seeking, but once I looked on the website and saw what this program had to offer, I thought that it would be totally different from my previous degree. And I was right. And kind of like Lauren Fernandez said, I got my first master's at a traditional state university, and this experience has been vastly different. They are so supportive and very involved in your education that it was a really good call for me to put in for this program. And I've gotten so much out of it. It's been, invaluable, and it is a lot of work. I feel like in the beginning, they, kind of feed you from a fire hose. You're drinking from a fire hose, and then they kind of ease off a little bit. But, I was able to do it, writing my essays and getting the letters of approval. One thing that I made sure was that not only is my boss giving me this letter saying, that I could come, that he actually really meant it, that I would get the time that I needed to do the hard work, to do all the things that were required. And they really did mean it. And I've had knock on wood, a successful run so far, having enough time to do what I need to do. I will say that because the program is difficult and you go with this large cohort of vastly different people who are all subject matter experts in something, I definitely dealt with some imposter syndrome. Like when I first got here, I was like, oof, I don't belong here. I think they messed up. I think they don't know, how unintelligent I am. So I dealt with that, and I'm still dealing with it now, even though I'm, graduating in a month. It still feels like maybe they messed up. Maybe I don't belong here. But it's the environment in which you learn is just one that facilitates this really great discussion about things that you wouldn't have otherwise. You can go to meetings and briefings and or go to another school, but you're not going to get out of that education or that meeting what kind of discussions we have in the classroom that really broaden your horizon, and you learn something every time you go. Every time I come back from California, I'm bringing back little nuggets with me to people that I work with. For example, we recently had a class on internet and society, and one of the assignments was to go on this website called Bellingcat and look up one of the stories on Bellingcat's website. Bellingcat is a bunch of independent journalists and researchers who kind of get together and write about things. So they'll write about, the war in Ukraine. And at the end of that assignment, the professor, I was showing interest in what Bellingcat does. They do a lot of open source scrubbing. And I said, that's what I do a lot at my job. I'm really interested in that. He goes, well, here's a great tool that Bellingcat has. And he showed me a website, and Bellingcat has this whole Google document of open source tools that you could use free and available to the public. And I went home, and that next week I used one of their tools in one of my current investigations, and I couldn't believe how well it worked. Like, it works better than some of the tools that we pay for, and this was free, available. I've been a detective for 14 years, and I never heard of this tool before. And so that's like a little nugget that I bring home. But yeah, the experience has been fantastic. And I say that now, even having gone through the thesis process and still going through the thesis process, it's a little bit of madness and a lot of greatness.
And Lauren, how many hours, this is a common question of a lot of our applicants, how many hours would you expect to be outside of work per week doing the work of the program?
So I think it depends on what quarter you're in. I think, Lauren Fernandez knows the answer to this question, but I think they designed the program so that you have one really tough course and one a little bit easier course, so that you're not like overloaded with two really intense, awful courses at the same time. I typically, on a really tough course, might spend 10 to 20 hours a week on it. And then on some of the lighter lift courses, I might spend 0 to 2 hours. It depends on how much. I do remember one IR when we were out in California, we left for the weekend and we were given 400, 500 pages to read. I spent that whole weekend locked up in my hotel room reading. So that was a 20-hour weekend. So it really depends on number one, are you actually reading it, right? And number two, the specific quarter. But I will say I had a life outside of CHDS and work.
I almost took you off the marketing team there for a second, Lauren.
Yeah, I had a life outside of CHDS and work, but it's a lot of hard work. It depends on how much you want to put into it. Are you reading it all? Are you reading it at a graduate reading way? I prefer to read everything because that's just me. I'm type A and I need to read it all. And I need everything I deliver to be good enough, right? So,
and that's important. It is getting something out of the program. You can skim, but we have resources. Reading for graduate level is part of the curriculum, right, Lauren? Reading for graduate level.
Yeah, we give you a book on how to read. No joke.
Good.
But yeah, it's how do you digest an enormous amount of information and get from it what you need? So, and you've got your colleagues in your class to help along the way as well. I'm sure, Lauren, in your experience, are you guys giving each other a hand and kind of encouraging each other, or conquering and dividing assignments in some cases?
Yeah, for sure. We have once we got together as a cohort, we set up a WhatsApp, group chat, and we talk on that. And you'll find our cohort gets along very well, all of us. But you do have your best buddies, and usually we'll be like, all right, you read this chapter, I'll read that chapter, and then we'll meet up and we'll compare notes. And it's definitely like a team effort, even with the thesis. Like, we have a Slack channel for thesis topics, and if we know someone's working on that, we'll post it in there, like an article that we find. So it's definitely like a team effort, and you have this great team that's already built in that you get assigned when you get to CHDS, and they really do help you out, and they pull you up when you're down. If you're falling behind, someone typically reaches out and says, hey, what do you need help with? So it's super helpful to have that. And if I hate to say this, but if I can do it, anybody can do it. I don't feel like I'm the brightest bulb in the box, but I got by and I learned a ton, and it's totally doable.
A lot of people say it's about time management.
I was going to say, Lauren, you did more than get by. What I particularly admire about your work is that you were open enough to change your mind on some ideas that you had going in and look at things differently. And that takes someone with a really kind of, open growth mindset to do that. Can you talk at all about, you talked about the nuggets of tools that you've brought back. Has the program changed the way you think about any Homeland Security issues?
Yeah. I mean, I've always had a growth mindset. It's one thing that I'm happy that I have, because it's something that helps me professionally and personally. But it's totally changed the way I think about things. I used to be a little bit quicker to like give opinions on things. And now I'm like, you know what, let me sit back and research that, or let me ask someone who knows better. Because, I came into this program wanting to write about domestic terrorism because that's what I do for a job. And I wrote my intro paper in Lauren and Bijan's class on the possibility of a domestic terrorism statute. And going into the paper, I'm like, yep, totally possible. And coming out of the paper, I'm like, I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, it just changes the way you think about things. You realize that, you might know a lot about your little corner of the world, but there's a whole lot to learn, especially for someone like me. I work at an office of Homeland Security. So I thought, coming into this program, I'm going to know all this stuff. Like, I have like an edge up on the OEM guy, like, and I do in certain circumstances, but in others, I don't know what they do. And you really need to, it humbles you, and you realize, okay, I have a ton to learn. And also, don't be so quick to think that you know the answer.
Or don't believe everything you think. Is that what they say?
Yeah. Yes. That's a really good way to put it, Heather.
So a lot of folks are asking about requirements for the classroom, and we do, this is a very compressed program. So every in-residence session is required. If you have something going on like a vacation or a wedding during the time of the program, and the in-residence schedule, it's during one of those times, those are the required times. So a lot of people will move to the next deadline. In terms of deadlines, I'm remiss in not saying we have 2 every year. They don't change. Those deadlines are December 1, which is the next one, for a spring start in Monterey, and then May 1 for a fall start. And that is the hybrid Bolger Center Monterey program. So 2 deadlines, and we don't look at your application until you finalize it. I mentioned that before, but somebody asked. So if you have applied and didn't get in, it's not unusual. We keep your application, but we do ask that you make significant changes to the application if you are going to resubmit. So look it over. It's 6 months between each application. So look at what you're doing in Homeland Security again, and look at your writing. The main reason people don't get in the first time, there's a couple reasons. One is the agency doesn't support them. The other is that the writing needs to be at the graduate level. And we're putting some resources in the chat to help you with that. But the thinking perspective versus the tactical operational of what you do every day, there's a big difference in how you present that in the application. So you want to talk about your influence in Homeland Security, your scope, and then the more of the thinking about the problems. So think about those things as you redo and resubmit the application. And hopefully that will help you. We're going to take these questions and answer them. This will be a recorded session, of course, and we can put this out to you guys after we finish. But I just want to make sure that some of those questions are answered. And we have another faculty member, Bijan Karimi, on the chat who is helping with answering those questions. So thank you, Bijan, for doing that. And be sure, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Is there anything else about the master's program, Lauren, that you think we need to mention?
I was just going to say it's a lot of fun. It's not like roller coaster fun, but it is, if you're looking to be challenged and you're looking to try something hard and you're looking to kind of learn and grow or address problems that you're not able to on a day-to-day basis, or grow into a field that you're not in right now, in terms like, hey, I'd like to be the head of this division, or I'd like to really work on this kind of problem in my agency. Go for it. The worst thing that can happen is, okay, you don't get in the first time. You could try again if it's important to you. And we're going to talk about other resources that the center has as well, where you can learn and grow about Homeland Security. So just go for it.
Excellent. And the degree is recognized all over the world. And after being here for 20 years, I can tell you that the degree, when it comes to a competitive job or a promotion, having a degree from our programs makes a difference, a significant difference in that competition. So I will say that the work is worth it. It is a lot of work, but it is so much a feeling of accomplishment. And many people have told me, graduates, that it has changed their life professionally and personally. So we invite you to apply. Again, those deadlines are December 1 and May 1, and the application is online. We're going to go quickly to Emergence, which is another program we offer. So this is a 6-month program, and it is geared for those in the first half of their careers. And it is for those who are looking at change in their agency. You compete in this program. Your application has a component which we call a change initiative. So if you were looking across your agency, what kinds of change do you think would make a difference? And in that program, you're able to take that idea, and we have an amazing faculty and cadre of experts who will help you take that program from idea to execution. So here are some of the folks who have taken those ideas and what they've accomplished through the program.
The 6-month program consists of 2 one-week sessions here in Monterey, California, and the rest of the program is online. It does require graduate level work. You're working online with your cohort and faculty. You can expect to do about 3 to 5 hours of coursework per week.
The deadlines are the same as the master's program, May 1 and December 1. And those programs are offered only here in Monterey. So those 2 in-residence sessions that you have will be only in Monterey. And for this program, we allow for the private sector who have relevant responsibilities. And again, we leave that to you to make the case for the criticality of your position to Homeland Security in this program as well.
For the private sector, we cover the tuition, but the organization is responsible for travel and lodging costs, which are about $2,500 a week.
And I would like to also say that for each of our programs, we have an amazing logistics staff and operations staff that will do all your travel and lodging. So all you really have to worry about is really concentrating on the content of the program and taking your ideas and putting them through to execution. One of the things that makes CHDS very different than other agencies or other programs, I should say, is that we expect the implementation of your ideas, and we follow you. Not in a creepy way, but we do watch you as you progress in your career. We like to showcase what people learn in our classrooms and bring them out to the forefront of Homeland Security so that others can emulate. So ideas that start here, we have a very small classroom of 32, but those ideas can percolate and exponentially change Homeland Security across the nation. Even if you don't partake in our programs, we do have a lot of resources that you can partake of and look through this website and perhaps make change in your own agency. So 2 deadlines for Emergence, and we happen to have one of our alumni, Miss Erica May, who is the Emergency Communications Supervisor for the Memphis Police Department. Can you talk about why you applied, what difference it made, and what you're up to these days?
Certainly, Heather. I applied to Emergence because the Center for Homeland Defense and Security, it caught my eye, like looking through the recruitment. And so I looked at all of the programs, and this was one that I could commit to, and I fell in line with the requirements. I already have a master's degree, and I looked over this curriculum, and it piqued my interest. I said, hey, I don't know a lot about Homeland Security. And so I applied, and I got in. And one thing I would say, that the program is educational, but it's also inspirational. One thing, the cohort, we're in with 30 other people from all other disciplines. So I work in 911, public safety. Wouldn't even think that was Homeland Security, but now I know that it is. and also in there with TSA, the police, the fire department, the Federal Reserve, Disney Security, the Coast Guard, immigration, all of us coming together to talk about our ideas. And when you see the passion that everyone has for, when you see the passion that everyone has for their work and for the change that they want to make, it's inspirational to see how many people and the diversity that we have that want to contribute to the safety of our country. So before coming into the program, I was not able to say exactly what is Homeland Security. It seemed like something so big, so grand, but now I know that it's anything that can compromise the continuity of our country's operations, and it could even be weather. We have a great emergency management representation in my cohort. So some of my major takeaways were, some of my favorite classes, the lectures were the risk management, the communication. I'm an instructor and a conference speaker. So the lecture that we had on communication techniques from someone that was well regarded, and we got a book, it has even helped me in my professional life. Also, with our change initiatives, we have to speak to our agency's leaders. So I was able to pitch to my police chief. And the program teaches us to learn not only about the change that we want to make, but how does this benefit the agency, and what will make them listen to us? Why should they listen to this idea that we have? And it gives us the tools and the resources to condense that and make it palatable to leadership. One thing I want to talk about is what Heather said, the logistics. The logistics are A1. All that you do have to focus on is doing your work and showing up and being your best self in the program and being open to learning and open to change. And so one thing that immediate takeaway that I can say is that when I was going through the program, the graduation, we were in Memphis, we're dealing with the Tyree Nichols incident. And so we were making preparations at work and in our agency for the possibility of civil unrest. And I know that we were, well, because it happened in Memphis. But when I was in residence, my cohorts, they were telling me, we're making preparations as well. And they were asking me questions and I'm like, oh my goodness, really? So it let me know that just how big it was. And I was able to report back to my agency, what others were doing. And the network, the people that you're going to network with and the things that you're going to learn, it is going to be life-changing, and it's a second to none educational experience.
That's so great. Erica, can you talk about your change initiative specifically?
Yes, my change initiative is centered around reckless driving. In Memphis, we've had an increase, which it's better now. We had an increase in instances of reckless driving and drag racing, which also resulted in an increase in fatalities. And many times the people that would perish in the accidents were not the ones that were engaged in the reckless driving. So this was really compromising the security, and the safety of Memphis citizens. And I was able to hear that firsthand working in 911. You hear people calling in terrified because 100 people are blocking the intersection or 100 people are racing down the interstate. So my change initiative was to improve our public messaging, the messages that we put out to the public around reckless driving, because the current messaging was placed like in the library and in the community centers. And I told them, hey, our population demographic that's engaged in the reckless driving, I would bet my money they're not at the library. So we need to try to reach their family members. We need to try to reach others that would be able to speak to them. Again, I got the support of my agency. I was able to pitch that to our command staff, and the assistant chief, he liked the idea and he calls on me to give my presentation in community meetings. He said, hey, I want to use you. We want to do this. So they didn't implement it the exact way that I wanted, but they do call on me. They did let me know that they appreciate my work, and it has improved our relationship.
That's wonderful. And that's really the goal of this particular program. For those who are, again, in the first half of their careers, to engage with their leadership in a different way and take an idea to them that otherwise may have gotten lost in the shuffle or the gatekeeping or bureaucracy. So we anticipate that this program can create great change in agencies. And again, the deadlines for this program are May 1 and December 1. And on our website, you'll find the full application. And again, the private sector is allowed in this program, so we invite you to apply. First half of the career is defined as, we have so many different types of folks in different careers, but we don't have a specific limit. So if you feel like you could benefit from a change initiative in your current position, bringing that to your leadership, the program we invite you to apply to. So we don't have any specific first half of the career a number, but definitely it's for those who are not in leadership, of course, because you'd be pitching this idea to your leadership. The Masters and the Executive Leaders Program are for those in the mid to senior level of their careers. So we'll talk about the executive leaders in a moment, but Erica, I want to thank you for being here today and for helping us understand the Emergence program. And please feel free to ask those questions. Yes?
Yeah, don't do it. Even though it's not like the executive leaders program, we had several leaders in our program. Like, I'm a mid-level leader, but we also had directors, and we did have people in leadership positions in our cohort.
Again, it's up to each applicant because we deal with so many different agencies to make that case for each program. So thank you for that, bringing that to our attention, Erica. We're going to talk about the Executive Leaders Program. This program is for the senior leadership of agencies across the country, including the private sector. So the Executive Leaders Program is a 12-month program, and you are in it for 4 one-week sessions over the 12 months. You come here to Monterey. We offer this only on the Monterey campus. And again, you're staying on the Navy base here at NPS in a wonderful hotel. Again, all the travel, tuition, lodging, and books, everything you need for this program is covered by FEMA. And if you are a local, state, federal, territorial, tribal person, in addition to the private sector. All right, you can see, again, I'm going to scroll through here very quickly, the learning structure and the timeline. We are running out of time, so I'm going to go a little more quickly through these programs. This 4 one-week session, you can see when you'll be out of the office, as you can with all of our programs. The deadlines for the executive program are June 15th and January 15th. So the next deadline is January 15th, and that's for a spring start here in Monterey, and then June 15th for a fall start here in Monterey. And the types of people that are in this program, we have about 200 applicants for 32 spots for this program. And it is for those who are at the mid to senior level in their career, who are wanting to learn more from a very diverse classroom, including the private sector. And again, only strategy and policy, not really the tactical operational perspective you get in the training programs around the country, which are great. But this is really truly looking at what's happening in our country and learning from others how they're dealing with these dynamic threats that we face. The application is here, and it consists of questions of how you maneuver in your area of responsibility. So what are your responsibilities? What are the things that keep you up at night? What are the ways in which you want to lead? What do you want to learn out of this program? And what are you going to actually bring to the classroom that others can learn from you? So again, you can see the director of this program is Sarah Kay, and we have an email where you can email specific questions to, and the next deadline will be December 1. All right, and again, DHS employees have a specific point of contacts. You have internal process that you'll be able to find here on our website, and the person who is responsible for your component, your training POC. So we invite you to check that out and apply for the Executive Leaders Program. And then under our academic programs, we have a couple of others in our executive education portfolio, and that's led by Ms. Dawn Wilson, and I will take you there in just a moment. This executive education program is where we have a couple of in-residence programs, but we also have a seminar and a portfolio where we bring the learning to you. So we come to governors, mayors, agencies, associations, and we provide, whether it's a half day, full day, multi-day seminars on topics where, you know, every part of the country has very different threats, dynamic needs. And so we work with you and your agency, your association, to look at those. And we have a deep bench of experts who we can bring to bear. So for Super Bowl planning, things like, you know, big GOP, Democratic Party, all those big conventions, we're bringing folks together to make them more secure. So this, you can see here, the reports, the places they've been and the things that they do are very extensive. And again, it's about bringing it to you. You can see here in the states where we've been. So if you have leadership that can benefit from bringing our team in and helping with some of the dynamic threats that you face, we invite you to work with Dawn and her team there on the executive education program. We also have programs that are specific. So the Pacific Executive Leaders Program here is for those who have specific responsibilities in the Pacific Islands and territories. That's offered twice a year. And you can find all the details here on our website, and as well as the radiological, the REP program. We have two programs where one is an executive program that is modeled after the Executive Leaders Program. And then we also have more of the emergence type REP program for those in the first half of their careers. And you can find all the information as well as the applications and the deadlines here on the website. So we invite you to check that out. In our time remaining, Lauren Fernandez, I would like to turn it over to you for some of the resources that we have available on our website. So even if you're not part of our programs, you still have access to our learning and research sites. You want to, I'll stop sharing so you can share yours.
Oh, okay. We have a practice of creating courses online. These are not courses that will come with a diploma or anything like that, but you do get a record of completion. There are universities out there that use our courses. There are people that will accept these certificates for continuing education training and things like that. Some agencies have also incorporated some of these courses into their training programs, but you can see there's a wide variety of topics. I think we're up to almost 35 courses now. We really revamped this when COVID hit, that are on very current topics, threats from nation states. We have cyber courses, we have public health courses, courses on leadership, technology's impact, on legal matters and things of that sort. So they vary in size, and it'll give you a heads up at the top about how long we would expect you to take the course. But you could also just go in and take different modules. So if this is an area that you want to grow into or learn more about, you could take these in the middle of the night. You can fit them into your schedule and just have fun and explore doing that. There's a request access up at the top. If you don't already have an account, you can create one. It's free. All these courses are free for anyone in government or doing Homeland Security work in the United States. So that's a fantastic resource. Another resource is the Homeland Security Digital Library. Let's see here. That's how I find it. So this is an online library. You can also get an account here for free to have further access to materials. But it's really a curated collection of thousands and thousands of documents that are organized by keywords and categories. One of my favorite sections is this in focus up here. So they take current topics. We're going through massive heat waves right now. So if you click on extreme heat, you're going to see articles and materials that are related to this topic. So in addition to be able to search on your own with keywords through theses and published articles, materials that you can really trust because there's a librarian that's going through and hand selecting these. But you can also go topically and expand your knowledge on different aspects. So here we can see for extreme heat, there's a plan for in Texas prisons. So some of the operational material. You can see more of the strategic material that is coming out as well. So that's a wonderful resource. Those are two. Heather, can you think of another one that's that you'd like to discuss?
Probably AI. All the theses that are written there here at NPS and CHDS are available on our digital library as well. But AI is like, everybody's talking about it. It's the biggest thing. You can find the latest here at the digital library. And I like to say that in this age of disinformation and misinformation, the digital library is a very trusted place you can come. So when you need to learn something quickly, when the boss turns to you and says, hey, you need to be smart on this AI. What is this ChatGPT anyway? You can come to the digital library and find the latest presidential directives, the executive orders, but also the research that's been conducted, as well as agency information that is shared only here at the HSDL.
Another resource to mention quickly is the Homeland Security Affairs Journal. So we have our own journal that publishes articles on a regular basis, research articles, and there's a subset as well, for academic affairs, which is more on the kind of the lessons learned level. So if you're interested in reading or if you're interested in submitting, we'd be very interested in your work.
We also invite you to submit to our digital library as well. If your agency has, scenarios or information that other agencies might benefit from, please feel free to submit that, and you'll find that on the website. So, hey, we have gone through this executive briefing very quickly. We hope we've answered some of these questions, if not all. But I do thank you guys for your time. Lauren, thank you for sharing your perspectives from our classroom and some of the reasons why people actually excel and change their lives and the nation's security by participating in our programs.
Thank you, everyone, for your time on this call. And we're happy to follow up and answer questions and engage with you that way, too.
Yeah, we'll be online on the chat function for a little while just to kind of answer those questions. But my email, and I believe Lauren's email is on here, so you can feel free to send those questions our way via